Continuing education knows that at the end, students want to graduate, and we can help them do that because we take the time to really listen to their needs, and we understand all the different options that are available across the campus for them.
We don't take a cookie cutter approach. We realize each student comes with their own story. So whether it's a part-time student looking to complete a degree program or someone just looking for online courses, we're there to connect them to the resources of the university.
Hi and good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. It is 3 p.m. It is 3:08 p.m. and this panel number is 18043, titled How I Built This: Immersive Experiences, Street Art, Drones, and Stages. Before we get started, the University of Colorado Boulder, Colorado's flagship university, honors and recognizes the many contributions of Indigenous peoples in our state. CU Boulder acknowledges that it is located on the traditional territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and many other Native American nations. Their forced removal from these territories has caused devastating and lasting impacts. While the University of Colorado Boulder can never undo or rectify the devastation wrought on Indigenous peoples, we commit to improving and enhancing engagement with Indigenous peoples and issues locally and globally. We will do this by recognizing and amplifying the voices of Indigenous CU Boulder students, staff, and faculty and their work, educating, conducting research, supporting student success, and integrating Indigenous knowledge, consulting, engaging, and working collaboratively with tribal nations to enhance our ability and to provide access and culturally sensitive support and to recruit, retain, and graduate Native American students in a climate that is inclusive and respectful. Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Click. I'm with the City of Boulder, the Office of Arts and Culture in the Community Vitality Department. Our office oversees over $1 million of grants every year. We have a massive public art program, some of which you've seen if you've been around town. We also do research on programs. We host programs for artists and arts organizations, and we host programs like Boulder Arts Week, which is happening right now. Please go check it out. Free advertising. Today, I'm surrounded by an incredible group of people, and you have their descriptions in your books, but we think as artists and creatives and thought leaders that we wanted to have them show you and talk and introduce themselves with visuals. So we're going to start with Aarian at the very end. Please and thank you. You'll have 2 minutes, and since we're a little tight on time, I will try not to get ahead of yourself.
Okay, I'll go
Thank
quickly. Hi, my name is Aarian Marshall. I'm a staff writer at Wired magazine. This panel is called How I Built This. I did not build this image. This is actually something that was commissioned for Wired by a really talented artist named Meng-Shin Lee. But the reason we commissioned this is because I report on autonomous vehicles and the future of cities. And this, back in 2018, was how we were envisioning the future of cities thanks to self-driving cars. It was really kind of an exercise. At the time, autonomous vehicle companies were really pitching a future in which people wouldn't have to own their own vehicles. They could just kind of pick up autonomous vehicles like taxis whenever they needed them. And we kind of ran this thought experiment. What would that mean for what cities look like? We can go to the next slide, please. So this is kind of a zoom in detail where we were rethinking, it's kind of hard to see, but this is green space, you can see from the little trees, and kind of winding roads. And that was really about thinking through what would happen if we really didn't depend on cars to get around as intensely as we do right now. Could we have more green space? Could we have more paths that are kind of created by humans? They don't necessarily have to be straight all the time because we're not necessarily driving cars on them. And I think we have next. And this is an autonomous vehicle nest. Something people were really talking about at the time and still talk about a bit is having cars kind of at the exterior of a city. They kind of park out there and wait for you to take the next trip and then come in for you when you need that trip. But when they are not being driven on a trip, they can rest outside the city. That's another way to get cars off the road. And then the next image I have on here I think is a little more realistic vision of the future of the cities. This is from a New York Times article actually about how Paris is a total mess right now. I think it kind of shows the opposite. Paris is really remarkable. Just in the past few years, they've gone from just 100 miles of bike lanes in 2001 to, as of late fall, they had 1,000 miles of bike lanes. So many people cycle there. It's really been a way for them to move away from kind of auto-centered design towards people-centered design. I think this is probably a more realistic vision of the near future, but it'll be interesting to see if we get to that kind of more futuristic one soon-ish.
Thank you, fantastic. I think if we can just move down, Nico, please, 2 minutes.
Yeah, it should work. We're just gonna look at my Instagram. Yeah.
We're going to check out her Instagram.
So my name's Nico, and I'm most well known for being a street artist and muralist, but I'm also a studio artist. I started my career in Jacksonville, Florida, and now I live in Miami. I lived in Jacksonville for a while though, and I used to do a lot of community programming and youth programming. So along with doing my own murals, I was teaching a lot of mural painting workshops, which I was doing today outside. I don't know if you guys saw, we were doing just how to spray paint, and it was really fun. So that's a lot of my building my career, was doing community programming in Title I schools, which in Florida are schools that are mainly underserved children, underserved communities. I had a program called the Kids Mural Project, where we went to 35 schools in 1 year and did murals in all the schools with the kids. The kids designed them, even kindergartners. They designed a really cute one. It just said friends, and it had like hearts and smiley faces. But yeah, I'll just show you guys a couple. This is one I did last year at the Zoo Miami. They chose me because I do a lot of butterflies. It's symbolic in my work. It stems from my grandma and my grandfather, and just a special story with them. So they have this old World War II bunker on the property there at the zoo in an area called the Pine Rocklands, which does not have mosquitoes in Florida at all. In the middle of summer, no mosquitoes. It was amazing, amazing. And this is actually not part of the public area. It's a private area where they do the research and conservation stuff for butterflies and endangered species. So that was really fun. I've been doing a little bit more studio work lately. This I just did for the city of North Bay Village in Miami. It's a really cool walkway. I just did focus on local plant life. I do a lot of plants and animals, and I've been incorporating these digital elements to promote the concept of human or nature and technology working together in harmony. And I'll show you this one too. This one's, oh wait, no, sorry, wrong. I'll just show you guys one more. This one was really cool. I got really into mushrooms a year and a half ago. Not just psychedelic mushrooms, like mycelium and the networks, and that's where I got the inspiration for the nature technology and how we can be learning from nature technology to help our own human life. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Fantastic. Next, please.
Yep.
And then Needell, who's also, thank you so much for helping with our tech today.
Tech support.
And thanks to the whole crew here, all solid.
I was not really sure what to put in this presentation, so I will just go for it. My name is Emma Needell. I'm a filmmaker, writer, and world builder. So I got my start in Hollywood as a screenwriter. I was the screenwriter and executive producer on The Waterman, which Oprah Winfrey produced, and David Oyelowo starred and directed in it. It had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival and is now available on Netflix. Shameless plug, check it out. So The Waterman, I wrote it when I was 24, and it's about a young boy named Gunnar who learns that his mother is dying of cancer. And legend says that there's this figure in the woods, deep in the woods, named the Waterman, who supposedly knows the secret to immortality. And he enlists the help of the one girl in town who claims to have met the waterman in order to try to save his mom. So even then, at age 24, the idea of world building and myth making was really central to me as an artist. I have since worked as a professional screenwriter for a number of collaborators in Hollywood and beyond. All of my work centers on magical realism or myth making, and I've been able to work with directors like Steven Spielberg and Ava DuVernay, and including a project with Rihanna, which was really exciting. I also work for the game company Tally Labs. I'm their in-house world builder and head of story, where I built the signature jungle punk world Azurbala, which will be released as a branching narrative game later this month with an app they're developing. But so, that combines the idea of like a cyberpunk or a diesel punk, but set in the jungle. So that's been a lot of fun. Just, you don't have to worry about the constraints that sometimes come with Hollywood. I've just been able to let my world building artist fly, which has been awesome. Recently, I directed and co-wrote a short film, Life Rendered. I actually shot it here, half in Colorado, half in Los Angeles. I'm a Colorado native, so it's really cool to be able to do a project here with local talent. And so this one further broadened my artistic skills and horizons with world building with a tech focus. So I got an Epic Mega Grant, which that comes from Epic Games, creator of Fortnite, but they also create a software called Unreal Engine. A lot of games are built on Unreal Engine, but it's also an amazing tool as a filmmaker, which I'll go into now. I included the trailer, but I don't think we have time, so we're going to move right along. So this is a peek behind the curtain. These are literal screen grabs from Life Rendered. If we have time or interest, maybe we'll circle back so you have a bit more context of what this short film is about. But it is built using, again, half live action and then half virtual production. What you're seeing here is virtual production. For all of these sets, we built them in the game engine, Unreal Engine, and you can see here, you have your lighting setups, you have your sets. We're moving a little fast here, but there's camera setups too. You're literally building a set on a computer, and you can have a camera there and move that camera through the 3D space. It's amazing for a fraction of the cost, right? Oh, you don't like the wallpaper? It's a click of a button. Oh, you want a different lighting setup? You just drag. So in terms of production, it's mind-boggling. It's a game changer. And then this image on the top right, that's the matte painting that we built in Unreal Engine. And you can see, you can play around with different elements that you could add in. So as a filmmaker, as a world-building filmmaker, it was the time of my life. So here's another example. So this is actually a still or a scene from the film, and you can see again in the Unreal Engine version, this is what the virtual set looks like. So that main actor, that's all action that was created in motion capture. So it's animation that our lead actor, Owen Teague, another shameless plug, he's acting in motion capture in Planet of the Apes, the new one, check it out. He got a start in motion capture here, though. So he's piloting this character in a motion capture suit, but the way we see it on set, he's moving this character through our virtual set. It was amazing. This was also something that we did during COVID, and so a lot of this could happen via social distancing. It was amazing. I think that's about 2 minutes, so I'll end there.
Yes. So that was how you did it. Thank you. All done. Thank you. Incredible. Next, Hunter Leggitt, please. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to just grab the laptop.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How do we do this? Without breaking.
Everybody close your eyes.
Give me your microphone. Yeah. Thank you.
Technology. All right, my name's Hunter Leggitt. I'm a Denver native. I went to school here, graduated in 2003 in architecture, started in fine arts. This is going to be a quick presentation, but I'm going to flip through a lot of slides, so don't get nausea. I'm talking about half of my career. I'm an architect, a production designer and large-scale artist, and a DJ. So I'm going to be talking about more of the immersive. kind of my origins, how I built this. I've always had hobbies. Starting from a young age, I was building models, thinking, putting my head into, my hands, going to architecture school, creating stuff tangible, and also producing parties and producing experiences for others. And throughout all of it, taking leaps of faith. So these are some of my projects that I've done, from stages for Coachella, building it, Wild Cruise, doing it with all your friends. Year after year, we did about a decade of stages at Coachella. That's us building it, making people happy, then creating experiences here in Colorado, more stages, doing some of the initial technological advancements in projection mapping about 10 years ago. Then working with large-scale clients, Pharrell, I did his Happy stage and his Happy tour, made a lot of people happy. That's us, that's our team. Then working on actual built installations. So this is the MCA Denver. It's an interactive, immersive installation called the Octopus Initiative. Using gaining inspiration across the globe. This is Burning Man. Through 2 years ago, we did our first big art installation at Burning Man. It's called The Fork in the Road. So doing art in the desert. Playing the art, DJing it. Then billing it here. It's my mother. She's actually right over there. This is our installation at Burning Man this past year. It's paying homage to the Immortality Key book about psychedelics in ancient Greece and Rome. It's me standing on top of my piece. And then I launched a drone company last year. This is my partner. And we did our first show at Burning Man. It was the largest piece of art out there. It's 3 football fields wide, 1,000 drones, and it told the story that was paired with the art installation. It was composed by a musician, and it was badass. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much. And next we have Charlie Billingsley. Oh. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Thank you. We're high tech.
Yeah.
Isn't it important to see people's images, though? Like, when you see their work, you're like, okay, now I get it. Pardon.
Maybe check the spam.
Pay no attention. Actually, I've already failed you as a moderator. So there is a Q&A part at the very end of this panel. We'll leave like 10 minutes. If anybody, we use a note card system. So if anybody has questions, just raise your hand, request a note card and a pencil. And one of the producers, if the producers can raise your hand, sorry. Thank you, Elijah. Please write legibly. If you're a student, please note that, and they'll bring it up to us. And I urge you to please make your questions brief and to the point. And if you know any of the panelists, feel free to ask nosy questions that we might not get at. Actually, something else I wanted to talk about, since we all are creatives that interact with audiences. Just some raising your hands, they're not mutually exclusive. Who here is a student? Cool. Oh, welcome. Do we have creatives, artists? Yeah. Somebody who's what they consider uncreative? I don't think that's even a thing. Oh, okay. Arts administrators? Yeah, that's right. Are you ready? Yeah. Oh, welcome. Charlie.
Hello, so my name is Charlie Billingsley. I am a creative, multidisciplinary artist, and the founder and one of the co-creators of the Museum for Black Girls. And we are dedicated to creating experiences that highlight the stories, achievements, and journeys of Black women, and also underrepresented artists. So that's kind of what we do. We started in 2019 actually as a one-night event. And we're on year 5 now. So we've been extending it ever since. And since then we have done multiple locations in Denver, a location in Houston, a location in DC, and now we just most recently opened actually an exhibit at the CU Art Museum. So if you have a chance, check that out. It's just right across the campus. It's amazing. And then we have one downtown at the 16th Street Mall as well. But we just saw a gap in representation with Black women in art. And so we decided to create an immersive experience to educate people about the journeys of Black women. So we use our memories of what we grew up on. So what you kind of see in the top left-hand corner where it says Denver location is our grandma's kitchen. So we grew up getting our hair done in the kitchen. So we recreated those memories, which kind of just brings an experience for people who have had those same memories, but then also it brings that educational component, but in a fun way. So the ladies are able to sit in the chair and act like they're doing hair and have fun, but still learn the story of why we created those sets. And we also work with different local artists with every city that we go to. So here you'll see a balloon artist that created a melanin tree to represent the different shades and colors of Black women that they are. And then we have one that grew up, just wanting in dressing rooms and watching her aunt and sisters, get dressed in the luxury of it. And then we have our cloud room, which is kind of how Black women are heaven sent. So these are interpretations of the artists that we kind of curated with to create the museum. So these are our other locations. The top left there where it says Denver location, that's actually our most recent Boulder location. So we created like a seat at the table to honor different roles that Black women play. And then every city that we go to, we also honor the women in that city that have made history. So in DC, we found women. In Houston, we found women. And then in Denver, most recently in that bottom right, you'll see, or bottom left, you'll see other ladies we paid homage to, such as Cleo Parker Robinson, and she has a dance studio down in Denver. So it's a really fun place. We really created we kind of merged like a selfie museum with a regular museum to create an experience. So we have projections and installations and sets that you can kind of interact with. And then here you'll kind of see what the spaces look like before we built them out. So we take a lot of empty spaces that might be industrial spaces or old empty spaces. So our newest space was an old Victoria's Secret that we transformed into a museum. And then we create events and experiences around the space as well. So we have wellness events and yoga classes and a high tea event next month. So we really kind of embody everything in this one space. And yeah, that's what we do.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think if we want to close the laptop, right, hopefully it'll just be fantastic. Thank you. Oh man, I have a lot of questions, but this is also supposed to be sort of roundtable style, which I've talked to all of the panelists about. So if you feel inspired or so you hear something that you connect with, please feel free to just talk to each other, and I'm just gonna back out because y'all more interesting. The two of you made me think of something though, and this is sort of a question for the two of you. Your work is super interactive, obviously, right? And very fun, and super interactive. So as an artist, as a creative person, is what part of it when you're making your work is from you that you're like, I have to get this out into the world, this is me, this is my soul that I have to create, and what part are you thinking of the audience and how they're going to interact with it?
I'll say for me, creating the museum, I wanted to make sure we had a sensory aspect. And the reason why I did that was because I personally was in museums, and for one, didn't feel represented. For two, I was like, I can't touch anything or feel anything, and it's not that fun. We went to the Met, which is why I created the museum. We went to the Met back in 2018, and I was like, this museum is so big and it's so much. And I was like, what am I supposed to do here, right? Which I love museums now that I love to learn. But that's why we wanted to create a different type of experience. People are really about experiences now. How can we connect with them, not just with words or with pictures? How can we connect with them like how you built, installations? So how can we connect differently with them? And that's where it comes in with how we connect with our audience. How do we get the message through to them, and how can they understand it and feel it? And I think after COVID, honestly pre-COVID, but after COVID, people are really about experiences now. And so how do we bring people together and community together by creating an experience? And so that's kind of where we come from.
Yeah, I think I'll follow up on that. With immersive art, immersive experiences, I actually just got out of an immersive gaming talk right before this. It was really interesting because a lot of the metrics there were on sales and how many consumption that they create in their games, in their immersion. I create stories, and the stories are what engage the audience, either through a large piece of art, ephemeral stage, or a piece of architecture. And it's really through that you can draw on the experiential soul of the audience and let them interpret it. And some people don't get the art, don't get the experience. Some people misinterpret it, and that's okay, because that's part of the story. As a curator and a producer, I can only go so much. I know what I like, I know what I want to create, I'm an artist, and at the same time, I want the audience to take away what they will take away. And that feedback to me makes me a better artist if I can listen to that. And I think in talking about how we built this and immersive art, immersive experiences, it is the role of the designer and the producer to connect and listen to their audience.
Oh, that makes me think of public art, Nico. As somebody who's making work that's out in the public and is inherently kind of immersive, right? What do you think about your colleagues over here and their like immersive experience, audience experience?
It's amazing, and I want to do it too. So call me. I mean, it's incredible. I've always loved stage designs. I think the museum idea is so cool. I think you guys should do one in Miami, and I'll help you, and I'll introduce you to people. So let's do it.
You saw that promise here. But when you're making your own work too, like what is that experience? Because if you're painting in a zoo or on a wall,
Right.
those are audience members that are going to be seeing it without you even there to see them interact with it, right? What's it like?
Well, that makes me think of something. So every year during a music festival in Florida at the Spirit of Sewanee Music Park in Live Oak, it's a magical, beautiful place. There's a festival called Halloween, and a friend of mine curates a small part of it. It's around this lake. It's called Spirit Lake, and there's different art installations around the whole thing. And her installation is a mural maze, and she changed my perspective or opened my eyes to the impact that public art can have on people, because her murals she uses a lot of words, and you kind of, as you view the mural, you read the different things she has written, and it's all positive sort of affirmation stuff. And once we finish the mural maze and we just, the festival begins, you can watch people go through the maze and see their reactions. And whenever they go to hers, you can see them transform who they are and their vibration, their energy, their smile, their face as they read her pieces. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah. I do want to shift a little bit. And now I'm still stuck on the technology piece of it too, because a lot of you are working within advanced technology, right? Where do you think it's going, both for creatives and in general? And where would you like to see it go? If you had your ideal as a creative, as an artist, what do you want that you can use in the future? Maybe I'll start with Aarian.
Yeah. So I think as a journalist, one of the big challenges we're facing is how can we get people to look at our work more often? There are so many things competing for attention these days. Oh, yeah. And then also, how do we make money off of it? It turns out is kind of important in the end to keeping things like Wired magazine going. And we're finding that really kind of echoing what Hunter was saying about storytelling. I think I continue to believe that kind of the work of journalism, which is holding, I think, companies, government, other sorts of institutions to account, sometimes it's kind of like making people eat their peas. It's something I think people think is important in the abstract, but aren't always necessarily able or willing to kind of pay the money to their local newspaper, or maybe they don't have a local newspaper anymore. So I think for us, really finding the right medium to tell those stories is a real challenge right now. We are really trying to do more TikToks these days. That is not something I will say that comes naturally to me as a writer. That means I have to get on camera sometimes, which is just really horrifying. I have a ring light now, God help me. But we're really trying to find ways to take the stories we're writing and shift them into new media that people might be a little more interested in watching, or different people might be interested in consuming and watching right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Emma?
I feel like there's just such a elephant in the room when we talk about technology and the arts right now, which is AI. You can't escape it. You know, I think my experience with Unreal Engine and how amazing that technology was to kind of realizing my vision as a director for the film made me kind of this techno optimist, and then it all kind of got obliterated with AI. You know, at one level, I use AI all the time. I'm actually doing a panel on AI art creation tomorrow. I use AI for pitch decks, and these pitch decks that I've created have gotten me jobs, real jobs in Hollywood at a time when it's really hard to get a job. So at one level, you know, it's an amazing tool. At another level, the same kind of concern I have with big Hollywood, which is if you write an original screenplay and sell it to a studio, the studio owns it forever and can kick you off the project and do whatever they want. You lose ownership. And you know, at the end of the day, the studios are the ones that profit most. They're also the ones taking on the risk. So I understand that. What's really alarming about the AI companies, they've taken all this data that's been harvested without artist consent and are kind of feeding it back to us. It's a tricky thing, right? Because at one level, it's an amazing tool. And I don't know how many of you saw Sora, the new AI video creation tool. I mean, it looks amazing. At one level, it made me so elated. I was like, I can't wait to get my hands on it. And then another level, I was like, I'm totally obsolete, and what am I going to do? So I think when it comes to technology, I'm no longer a techno-optimist at all. But that won't stop me from keeping my inner child alive who loves to create and who loves to tell stories. And I think at the end of the day, you know, what Charlie was talking about going into a museum where you can play, that idea is so sacred, the inner child, and not losing sight of that. And so for me, you know, AI has these tools have allowed me to come to visualize these worlds I want to build without having to go to Hollywood, you know, kind of pleading, like, take a risk on my idea. I can create it now, which is awesome. But I think for all the tools there are, you also have to come up with defenses, the shield. And the shield is authenticity and originality. As an artist, I am arming myself by trying to be my most original and authentic all the time. Hopefully it's when AI doesn't steal my work.
I think I'll speak on this a little bit. You know, this panel is on how I built this, immersive experiences, and I think as you're seeing, there's a lot of different diversity of artists and creators here. Most of my art is tactile art. It's physical art, and you know, seeing the slides, you can see how I have been inspired and classically trained in architecture and construction, which translated over into production design and fabrication, and you know, then that's evolved into technology and drone companies. It is industry to industry and art form to art form. I'm not nervous about AI. I'm actually embracing it. I incorporated it into my last productions at Burning Man as a tool. And one thing that I've gotten good at in my career is really doing well at building big things and very difficult, challenging, complex things. And AI and some of the tools that are already out there has gotten me excited to even push the envelope on that, and it's allowed me to design and create more efficiently. But my art is tactile. It requires people to engage with it physically, and I think there's always going to be a market and a higher value for analog and physical art. So I'm embracing it, but I do understand the danger in other creative art forms.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts, Charlie?
No.
Okay. I'm good. It just makes me think of the importance of the role of the human in all of this, right? Like, right, as I like to say just anecdotally that artists will die of exposure. Like, you cannot pay your bills in exposure. Getting exposure does nothing. It could be a side help, but like, I will put you on my Instagram. I don't care. You need to pay your artists. And the city of Boulder believes that, and I believe that as a human. Because of this, like, without the people driving behind the AI and behind the designs and the bigger picture, I think we have nothing without our creatives, our humans, which makes me think of something else. I'm curious too about how all of you have talked kind of about these big breaks. You're like later in your careers, and I think if we're talking about how you build it, how did you get into this? Like, how do you recommend that somebody who's thinking about this work, like, get into it? What do you, collaborations or inspirations? I mean, you said, Charlie, you're like, oh, I started for a day and it's 5 years. Like, that is, in the art community, that's freaking amazing, right? Like, what was that break for you?
I think it was just getting started, just putting it out there. Because what really happened was I put a secret event on Facebook, left it alone for like a month, went back and checked it, and it was like 1,300 people interested, and it fueled me to do it. Like, okay, we have to do this now. Like, I was scared, and I was like, I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we'll figure it out. And I wrote a blueprint on a piece of poster board, and so that's the cool. I love telling that story because I love to tell people to just get started with what you have and where you are. And then my partner over here just came in like, what are you doing and what can I do? And we just figured out how to put everything together. I literally went to my grandmother's house and was like, hey, can I please borrow this salon chair and these hair dryers to have this space? And I asked my friend, like, can I use your boutique? Like, use your resources. Don't be afraid to look like you're just starting. And so I really think you just have to go with it, and then you'll realize, oh, that's your purpose. Because I didn't know that was what my purpose was. I was like, I'm gonna do this, it's fun, and I'm on to the next thing because I'm a creative and I always want to do all these different things. And so I think that's the bigger thing is really, what are you really interested in? What are you really passionate about? And how can you feel that to help other people or to tell other people's stories or to provide an experience and just a space? And yes, use collaboration. Because I'm only one Black girl, so I can't tell everybody's stories, but we do have people that come in and we hear them and we hear what they want and we hear their stories, and we're able to keep creating and elevating and collaborating to make sure that we're reaching everyone that we can reach. So, yeah.
Like scrappy nitty gritty.
Yeah.
How about Aarian is a journalist? Yeah, just like as an author.
I think it's probably changed since I started in this industry about a decade ago, but for me, I think the big lesson was you can never kind of go too niche or go too specific. I started, I had friends who graduated from college, they went right to work at the New York Times, they went right to work at Writers, some of these big deal name publications. I was kind of feeling sorry for myself that I didn't do that. But I started at an agriculture policy publication in DC called AgriPulse. Shout out to AgriPulse. They are headquartered in Missouri, and I learned a lot about agriculture policy in a very short amount of time, especially considering that I grew up in Brooklyn. Everyone was very mystified by me in that world. But I think if you, I think there's no such thing as starting in too small of a place. As someone who's willing to give you an opportunity, even if it doesn't feel like a huge break, it could end up being a huge break. Because I think in journalism in particular right now, there's real value in becoming a real expert at something kind of specific, and you can really start to build your brand that way by saying, hey, if you want to know about crop insurance and you want someone to translate crop insurance to a mainstream audience, you have come to the right place. So I think that's a great way to start.
It's storytelling, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Emma, your big break, how did you get connected with Oprah? Just tell us. We're all dying to know, right? Is everybody else interested in that? I'm so interested in that.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in rural Colorado. For those of you who know Colorado well, Elbert County. I think population 400 was the town I grew up in. Didn't have any connections in Hollywood. When I moved out there, I kind of lived by one mantra, which was work harder than anybody and you will make it. That works for your 20s. At some point, your mental health will fray. But so back to your question, connected to Oprah, I worked as a production assistant. When you're a production assistant, you work for productions. I worked for television shows. When the shows would go on hiatus, so between seasons, I'd have a couple months where I had nothing to do. And I started writing. The goal was always to direct, but when you're a recent college grad who's broke and doesn't know a lot of people, it's hard to direct anything. So I started writing. because it's free and you can do it by yourself. And I just wrote. I wrote like a monster. It's all I did, all I thought about. I heard some anecdata that it takes about 4 screenplays, feature-length screenplays, until you get your big break. For me, it was 6. I started taking night classes at UCLA Extension, and they had an amazing screenwriting program where I learned how to write. In that class, I wrote The Waterman, and it honestly was a bit of a fairy tale story. I went from, at that time I was an assistant, so I was picking up my big Hollywood bosses' kids from school, getting their groceries, getting their dry cleaning, getting their prescriptions, like, it was what it was. And then I got a call, it won a contest. And my friend, who was an up-and-coming manager, still an assistant, but could take on clients, called a baby manager. He was like, I loved Waterman, I want to rep you. And he started sending the script out. I had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. Again, I'm picking up dry cleaning, picking up prescriptions, and I get a call that the script has pretty much taken off like wildfire around Hollywood, and it even got into the inbox of Oprah. And that she and David Oyelowo, who at the time David O had just starred in Selma, and I literally thought he was American. He's British, such a good actor. He was like, oh, they want to meet about it. So it was a total fairy tale moment. Yeah.
It's like the labor and the effort of the, I saw Nico actually shaking your head back there about the labor behind did you have the same kind of, a similar experience of like laboring effort?
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned, artists should get paid for their work and exposure is worth nothing, it isn't worth nothing. It's worth a lot if you can kind of play your cards right and judge the circumstances right and know what you're getting out of different opportunities where you're doing work for free. As an artist, a muralist, a lot of people, I feel like in my industry, aren't willing to do that work, aren't willing to put in that work. And I was in my 20s.
In your 20s.
I worked nonstop all day, every day, paid or not, every opportunity I could, networked as much as possible. Just, you have to just go as hard as you can. Like, what did you say? Working hard.
If I work harder than anyone else, I'll succeed.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They're just like, oh, I decided to be an artist today, so you have to pay me like $50 an hour for my work. Like, I don't know, you can't always do that. I mean, in this world with social media, as an artist, things aren't different. The rules aren't the same. The traditional journey isn't the same, but I definitely think it's wise to do things for even exchange of opportunity and exposure. Even if you do something for somebody for free and they don't ever do anything for you, what you did, like the universe will return that energy to you. So just like having faith, knowing that all the work that you're putting in is going to come back to you and not getting too egotistical about it, Yeah.
Some advice my dear father gave me was, if you don't believe in yourself, why would anyone else? And so that idea of you have to have faith in yourself.
Definitely be confident, but don't be too delusional, especially at first.
Yeah, it's a good balance.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Thank you. I'm still going to tell everybody to pay your artists, though, and don't ever expect anything for free. How about
Definitely
that?
valid.
I'll adjust my language. What about you? What was your big break? I mean, like huge, incredible artworks. Like, where do you start? How do you get in there?
Yeah, I mean, you look at these. The fork in the road was actually pretty meaningful for me because I've had a lot of forks in the road in my life and my career. Going to school here for design was fascinating. It was great. I grew up in Denver. The week that I graduated, I packed a car and moved to LA. And I was out of here. That was 2003. I wanted to be in a spot that had the energy and was, innovating and just, top of the design magazines at the time. I wanted to place myself there. I'd never been to LA, didn't know anything about it, but that was kind of a first leap of faith. One of the things that I didn't glean from school, wasn't part of the curriculum, was any sort of business classes or networking classes, anything that had any sort of start your own business acumen and training. That's something that I had to learn the hard way, just kind of through trial and mistakes and learning. And that's something that I would highly advise anyone looking to go into any careers, get the basic 101s of business. I look back on kind of my 20-year now career in different industries, and I consider myself kind of a jack of all trades. I've not been fearful to dive into a completely new medium, technology, or kind of industry, and go at it full throttle if I'm passionate about it. And alongside all that, I've made sure to have strong mentors, advisors, and really focus on the value of community. And one of the things that they tell you as a kid, or what you see in the history books, is artists and creatives are usually solo individuals. They're isolated. That doesn't work in this world. You have to network. You have to rely on community. And I've gotten my breaks through my personal connections. Some of them have been organic, but most of them have been referrals just through my network. And then I think the last thing I'll say is reputation. You have to have a spotless reputation. And that's something that I've held a lot of pride in. I've taken a lot of pride, and I've made sure to maintain a great reputation. Everything I do, even if it's a terrible, terrible project or outcome, my reputation has to stand clean, and I will not fight a dirty fight if I can avoid it. So that's what's kind of carried me through all of the interesting challenges and twists in my career.
Yeah, fantastic. That's one I honestly have not heard before. You can be a panelist anytime. Your panelist reputation is really solid. I have a few questions, and that one actually is related to, you just answered it, thank you. From our students, what advice do you have for students studying in your respective disciplines? Or if you're studying, what do you recommend that they study, which is business background, right, financial background? Oh my God. Do you all agree with that? Because I wish to, myself included. But what do you think, Charlie, if somebody wants to get into museum building, immersive world building, that is worth studying?
Ooh, that's a good question, because I learned through just building. You literally learn, you learn by going, but I think if you can find people who are in your industry, at least there's a lot of resources now, like YouTube videos and TikTok videos and things like that, but even finding people maybe in your city or that are close to you, like, hey, can I come out and watch you build this or watch you do this when you do it? Really reaching out to people that are maybe in your industry, especially in the arts world. I really feel like we are really about community. And so if you just reach out and ask, they'll be like, hey, absolutely come. I know where I started, and I know that I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And so anyone that wants to come learn and come see and gain that knowledge, we're really open to it. So I think that's what I would say. Definitely taking the business classes, because as a creative, all you think of is being the visionary and being the creative. And then once everything goes off, it's like, oh shoot, what's going on, what's happening, And so definitely learn that the hard way. And so I definitely, if it's something that you really want to do, make sure you get your systems in order. I'm really learning about systems. So getting your systems in order and really just reaching out, because someone will say yes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's tax season, by the way. I just, what do you think? If you're going to be studying, what do you recommend?
I didn't take a single screenwriting class in college. I think that if you do the work in college, it's definitely worth it. I was definitely the sort of college student that I skated by to get skated by. I got really good grades, but I did the least amount of work possible because I wanted to go party and make films, frankly. So if you're in college and you're taking those screenwriting classes, you have to do the work, because if you don't do it then, it will catch up to you eventually. If you want to be a writer, you have to write. If you want to be a director, you have to direct. This is a saying in Hollywood, but it's absolutely true. You have to do the job you want to do long before you're paid to do it. One of the things that's awesome about being at a university, there are resources. There's probably a digital media center. There's probably a film program. Access to cameras and editing software, I mean, that can get so expensive when you're out on your own. Use it now. Abuse it. Take it to the limit. You're paying for it, so use it.
Thank you. You go.
I think one thing that we haven't said yet is just you have to regularly check in with yourself about what you're passionate about and what you really want to do and what really makes you happy. We obviously have to think about how we can make money, but if you have faith and you work hard and you follow your heart, you will get there eventually. So, yeah, that's my contribution.
You're so inspiring. I love it. Thank you. We all need to hear that kind of stuff too. Like, Aarian?
I think my big advice for students who are interested in journalism is actually maybe don't major in journalism. I found that so many of the really impressive writers, I majored in religion. That meant that I spent a lot of time in churches, kind of observing and talking to people about how they practiced. And it turns out that is journalism. It just kind of, I wasn't calling it was ethnography. But I think for journalism, just having a real natural-born curiosity, studying something that makes you write a lot, and in a kind of structured, logical way, really learning how to write. I think it's not necessary to learn in to be in journalism from the beginning, from college, and actually see some of the best journalists I know are folks who actually didn't work in journalism to begin with. They went and worked at a bank. They went and worked at a tech company, and they emerged really understanding how tech companies work, or really understanding how banks work, and that made them really good reporters on their on those topics. So I think you don't necessarily need to start early right now is the good news. You can kind of change your mind and become a journalist a little later in life.
Mm-hmm. I have another student question. Thank you. These are so great. What is a moment of excellence you've had in your life? Excellence. Think about excellence. You've had in your life involving your art form. Like your peak. And I like this because I was always trying to think of like how artists get to that aha moment, right? When you had that like, oh yeah, that's it, aha moment. Does anybody want to start?
I'll start on that. Yeah, I think a big moment in my life transitioning, the last recession, it was my leap from architecture. Real estate was down, no one was hiring, but I was in Hollywood, and art and music festivals, production industry was going crazy. So I made a leap into production design, started doing stages and large immersive art and experiences, and that was the first time that the impact of my creative output not only affected 4 or 5 people from a custom house that I'd spent 5 years designing and building and losing a lot of sleep and relationships and so on and so forth, but I could design something, I could build it with 50 of my best friends, and I could impact 50 to 100,000 people in 2 days. And that was kind of the aha moment for me of not a full abandonment of architecture, but this bifurcation and a complementary approach of matching the permanent with the ephemeral and seeing the different levels of impact. And something I'm really passionate about right now, and what I'm really pursuing, is how can we impact public and civic spaces in our towns, in our cities, in our communities, and improve the quality of living, the quality of life, and the quality of our environment by art and creativity. And immersive experiences are, I think, one of the drivers of that. And the challenge right now is the funding and getting the correct stakeholders. And this is definitely probably a whole different discussion, but working with cities and seeing how we can pull from merge the public sector and the private sector to invest in creativity and invest in the environment around us. And I think that falls on every single art form that I think we collectively represent. Now more than ever, we need this for us, for this audience, and for the next generations. We need stuff that we can feel, we can have emotions with, we can connect with, we can be influenced and inspired by the stories and the experiences we have. We're not getting it on this. And I see a gentleman back there who I just went to the panel with gaming and kind of the AR and VR. That's an aspect of it. That is immersion. And we need to celebrate that and bring it up more as a valuable piece of culture and what we should be promoting.
Mm-hmm. Charlie?
I want to go, but
Oh, okay, we'll come back. Do you need some water or something? Your moment of excellence.
My moment of excellence.
Just quickly, yeah.
Casual. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I feel like I talked a lot about the kind of moments of excellence. So I think I'm going to actually go, like, instead of talking really big, I'm going to talk a little bit smaller. And it's really any time I write something, because I think writing, especially screenwriting, is everyone okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially with screenwriting, it can be really formulaic. You know, you have, especially feature screenwriting, you know, your inciting incident needs to happen around page 15 out of a 100-page script, and by page 30 you have to get into your end of Act 1, and it just suddenly, you're doing a math problem, you're not writing from the heart. And any screenwriting book will regurgitate what I literally just said. I've read them all. And often when you are an artist, forced to, you know, sometimes boundaries and sometimes confinements can actually open up originality and open up your artistry. And sometimes they're stifling. And I think as a professional screenwriter for the last 8 years, I have been living in the Hollywood arithmetic model of what a screenplay needs to be. And very recently, and then the writer's strike happened last year, which sort of cut projects I was working on and put everyone at a standstill. I didn't write, not just out of solidarity, but also because I felt really lost as an artist. And so a moment of excellence I want to talk about is actually coming out of that dark period and writing something for the first time, I'm working on it right now, that has me choking up as I'm writing it, that has me excited to get to my computer every day, that has every second I am pouring into this project, I feel it in my heart. It's a story that makes me feel, and it's this light bulb moment of excellence, we'll say, but also of inner excellence, of this is why I write. I write to feel alive.
Thank you. Thank you for your.
Yeah, I'd say I have moments of excellence a lot, and it's not necessarily things that I do. I think every time you connect with a source who tells you something you didn't know, I find that it's especially rewarding when I'm connecting with people. You know, there are a lot of PR people who connect you with the executives of companies, and they always want you to talk to the CEO, and the CEO has their talking points that they've trained on for years, and they're really good at telling you those talking points. So the best part of my job is when I go out and I find a regular person who uses a product that didn't work for them in the way they wanted it to, or had a weird experience with a company that was kind of unpleasant, and tracking those people down who are just normal humans and telling their stories through our magazine stories, I think is the kind of the most rewarding work, and the time when it really feels like it's worth doing.
Fantastic. Thank you. Nico?
I just wasn't sure what my moment of excellence was, but I just thought of it. So I was thinking, like, oh, what's like the most epic mural project or job I've ever been hired to do? And I have been hired to do some really exciting things, but I think the most exciting, fulfilling thing I've ever done is one of the festivals that I organized in Jacksonville, because there were tough times when I was living in Jacksonville. Shootings were happening regularly with, you know, in the community with youth. And so I was trying to figure out what I could do as an artist, a person, to work towards a different future for the youth in the community. And so I had been organizing festivals just for mural painting, Kids Mural Festival, come and contribute to the wall, kind of what we were doing today. But it grew into something, it was called Color Me Kona. It was at Kona Skate Park, which is in Jacksonville, Florida. It's the oldest operating skate park in the world, and it's amazing. It's like a wonderland. But we had like over 100 young artists from all over the city that participated, muralists, singers, poets, rappers. We had a whole fashion show, and it was really people from all over the city, youth from all over all the different communities that came together, and just we created a community of artists where young people could pursue, you know, have the support to pursue a path in life in a creative direction as opposed to other less positive directions they might be able to go in. So I think that was that was a moment of excellence for me, being able to use my platform in my community to produce this huge event with all these young people and create an active community that could grow and develop. And we won an award actually for it that year, so.
That's great. Good. Thank you. Charlie.
Okay, I think I'm ready now. Aha or moment of excellence. A couple of things. I think, so my beautiful aunt here, I think the aha moment or moment of excellence was when I told her I was doing this museum. And I was just like, I'm just doing this thing. And she was like, no, this is bigger than us. And she got to see the first people who walked through the door, the very first museum, and see their faces. And so I think that's one of the moments for the museum that was like a moment of excellence and aha. But for me, as an artist, I think a lot of times it's hard to see what you're doing when you're in it and hard to trust what you're doing. And so my finally aha moment was actually us opening the exhibit here at CU Boulder. It was actually a moment where I'm super proud of. Every time we go in there, I don't even feel like I'm the curator or one of the creators of it. I go in like as a guest, and we even went in today, and I'm like, oh, I could stay in here forever.
This is so cool.
Yeah. And so it took, and I think that's a test of patience, because it took me 5 years to finally trust, like, oh, I am a curator, this is what I do, and I'm very happy and proud of it. There was one moment where we were on our very last day of the CU Boulder, and the guys that were working with us, they were like, you guys can't do anything else, touch anything else, we're done. And me being me, I sat there while everyone's packing up to leave, and I saw something I did not like, and I was like, no. I was like, we're tearing it all down now, and everyone's like, really? And I was like, yes, and I'm happy about it. I trusted myself as a curator that I knew what it felt like and what it needed to feel like, and I knew that I hadn't got there yet. And so that was my aha moment of excellence, finally being like, hey, this isn't right. I trust myself, I trust what I'm doing, and this looks great. And something to walk in all the time. We don't get to see it often, but when we walk in, I'm like, this is amazing. And to be able to say that as an artist and creator, because you don't always see your art when you're just like, oh, I did this, I don't know. And this time I'm like, no, it's beautiful. And then to be able to, one bigger thing for the museum is that what we say is that what comes from the heart goes to the heart. So we're actually a museum of inspiration and love, and that's what we kind of bring in. And so I think that's the aha, seeing these ladies and seeing people come in that are like, oh my gosh, I needed this. This is amazing. And not knowing when we first opened those doors, that's what was needed for the people. Just wanted to pay honor and homage to, where we come from. And then seeing all these people travel from all over the world, like, I have to be here. I have to just embrace this space. And so the space itself, they don't care to see. It's them being in it and feeling that someone cared about them and saw them. So,
I think there's I'll just say one more thing. I think there's, as immersive creators, artists, if you can connect and draw an emotion out of your audience, that's the most rewarding thing ever. That's what keeps you doing it. And you talked about, checking in on your passions, and passions come and go. And, I have gone all over the place, and I continuously check in on my passions. And I think that's part of the beauty of being a creative. There isn't a prescriptive path. You have to adjust. And I'm personally really excited right now because I think there's an entirely new tool set that can lend to the creative art forms. And we're just starting to see the very tip of the iceberg. And I think, scary as it might be, we have no idea. So why not be curious? And why not explore that with open arms instead of, raised fists? I think it's a moment to really check in, and I'm excited about it. So.
Yeah. I think when you are checking in with yourself and your purpose too, sometimes you feel like it's not what you're supposed to be doing, or you're tired of it, or it just feels hard. But watch how people connect with your art. Watch how people, every time someone comes in, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this, you guys, I give up. There's someone that comes in like, this is great, and I'm like, okay, like, it refills our cup, and it refills your purpose and your fire that once you started it with. So sometimes even if you lose that, look at the people around you who really appreciate what you're doing. And sometimes you don't see that because, you're in your head, or you're just overthinking your art. So I would really suggest that.
Thank you.
You guys, I'm Charlie's co-worker, and I'm sorry, I just have to speak to that when you ask the question, the moment of excellence, because yeah, Charlie was right. Charlie was right. She wasn't there the day we opened our first exhibit, and she's like, I don't know if we should. I'm like, yeah. Well, anyway, that opening night, I opened the door. It was a small shopette. I opened the door, and there was a line of people all the way around the shopette. And I thought, oh my goodness, right? And she wasn't there because we worked to the last minute. I mean, literally, we were nailing things up 2 minutes before the doors are supposed to open. And I'm like, go get dressed, and we'll get the people in. And to see the reaction of the people from what you create, how it moves them, how it touches them. And that's what art should do in all art forms. And I don't care what medium it is. I don't care if it's music, dance, literature, doesn't matter. When it touches a heart and you see that heart be lifted because of what you created, if you did it with love and intention, then that's what it's going to do. And there's somebody out there who needs that.
I think that's an interesting point that you bring up, because as artists, you can see that everything starting to fracture with the Instagrams, the social medias, attention spans, creatives saying, I don't have a career anymore because of AI. Well, if you can influence one person that way, it may inspire them to actually gain the courage to pursue something that's creative. And, that's beauty, that's impact.
And hopefully, yes, this is a true open forum. Hopefully this has been inspiring for all of you. I'm so sorry. I could listen to all of you talk and look at your work. I cannot wait to see what you're all up to in the future. Please, everybody out there, follow them on social media and go to see their work here at CU and all kinds of different places on Netflix. Follow them. Thank you all for coming. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you at other panels for CWA.